Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 11. It is called The Hunted. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, last time, we looked ahead and we saw that there were... this was going to be about a planet that was trying to get into the Federation, and Picard and the Enterprise were going to be here to do a report and sort of, essentially assess if they were eligible or not. And... everything's going well. In fact, Zefram Cochrane's in this episode, not playing Zefram Cochrane, which really threw me for a loop. So, I'm talking about James Cornwell, in case you're confused. He's Zefram Cochrane in Star Trek First Contact. So, we're seeing him here as a different role. I don't know if he plays more roles than this, or if it's just this one, then Zefram Cochrane, but that's...
I mean, it's hard to say. We'll find out.
That was the first thing that threw me anyway. So yeah, so these Ignosians, they're trying to get into the Federation, but there's a prisoner escapes from one of their off-world prisons and starts, going haywire with the Enterprise. I actually kind of liked how, because Picard and Riker are down on the planet, sort of talking to the Prime Minister of this planet, and Data on the Enterprise is, many a time we've seen Picard say to Data, you've got the con, you've got the bridge, whatever. And it's sort of, we know that Data's been left in charge because he's like the third highest ranking officer on the ship. That's maybe the first time, that at least that I remember, where it is just Data in the captain's chair and he's been left to handle it. And it's only like one long scene essentially, but he's there and he's giving orders to Worf. Worf's obviously still doing his things where he's doing the readings and all that, and Data's...
It didn't stand out to me as being the first time. Maybe that's just because, though, we've heard him say, right, Data, you've got it, so many times that I assumed we'd seen it before.
Yeah, maybe it's happened once or twice, but it's not something we've seen much of, because it stuck out to me that we had Data in this position where he's actually... Because, do you know what it was? It was Worf calling him Sir. Data said, do this, and he's like, yes, right away, Sir, or something like that he says, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'm not used to it. And it makes sense in the context, but I don't think I'd seen it before.
But no, I can't think of any specific example of it before this. But like I said, maybe my brain's just filling in the fact that I know he does this on a semi-regular basis. So my brain's just accepted that it's maybe seen this already, even though it hasn't.
Yeah, so basically, they have some trouble here. A lot of this kind of is weird to them. Whoever's doing this is a great tactical knowledge. He sort of tricks them with alternate sensors. The ship's in like multiple parts, and there's an escape pod, and it really confuses them. And more so the fact that they don't get any life readings on multiple parts of the ship. They don't understand what's going on. But eventually, when Picard and that come up, because some of this happens before the title sequence, and it kind of ends in the cliffhanger of like, because Data's like, he's eluded the Enterprise, sir, and he's like, eluded the Enterprise? Can't happen. And it goes to the opening titles. It comes back, Picard and Riker beam up, so Picard's giving the orders now, and eventually Picard's like, look, just anything big enough on that escape pod that could be at the size of a human, beam them, right? Just beam that thing. Doesn't matter if it's got life rings or not.
Pretty solid plan.
And sure enough, they beam this dude into the transporter room. Let me just get his name. It was Danar. They beam him in, and he immediately he's kind of like, he just immediately starts fighting everyone around him. There's just a couple of security guys there. They're getting hit. But I noticed this episode actually that some of the background characters have still got the season 1 uniforms.
Oh really? I didn't notice. I was too busy just watching the
I don't know.
Unfurling spectacle of the always amazing fight sequences.
Oh sure, it wasn't even this scene though. It was later on, and the reason why I noticed it is because they were with Worf, and Worf's got he's had since the start of the season the new version. But the two guys that he was with had the onesies, and I was like, oh, they're saving money. They're still using
just lying around in storage for the extras.
Yeah, makes sense. I wonder if that'll probably just transition over time as they slowly replace them. But at least right now, that some of the background characters are still given the onesies.
It makes sense, right? They've got them all to spare lying around. You might as well use them.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like, they're not like visually that different. I mean, yes, the actual apparel they're wearing is different, but the design's close enough that, you could have just not noticed that you didn't.
No, and honestly, it's plausible to me in a real world context here that in the show that not everyone has the new uniforms yet, because anywhere I've ever worked, when they rolled out a new uniform, no one gets it all at once. It's okay. The most important, managers get it first, whatever. And then after that, it's as you need it replaced, we'll replace it. You know, we won't just give everyone it at once because there's no need. It's good enough.
Yeah, so they've got him captive, and there's a little bit of oohing and eyeing, but ultimately what this episode comes down to is that he is a genetically engineered soldier who this planet created. Because this is the first thing we hear about this planet, is that they're against any type of violence. They want to be pacifists. They want to have everything sorted, diplomatically. And we find out he was altered. Him and the other soldiers were altered for battle. To the point where not only did they get increased strength and tactics and things like that, but they also had kind of it was like a fighting spirit almost, where if they were challenged, if anyone ever threatened them, they would just go into kill mode, right? And no one stopped to think that might be dangerous once they come back. But sure enough, when they came back to the planet, they couldn't integrate in society because anytime someone had a minor tiff with them, they went into kill mode because that's how they worked. So they were trained, and I don't even trained's not even the right word. Conditioned is a better word.
Yeah, that's more appropriate.
Or even programmed. I think even more than that. But they so they were sent to this prison instead. And as Danar admits, the dude, he's like, yeah, this is quite a nice prison. Like, they give us all the most comfortable homes to live in, lifestyles they can, but we still can't leave, and it's still a prison. Something Picard himself points out. It doesn't matter how nice it is, a prison's still a prison. And I was having warning signs at this point in the episode a little bit, not because conceptually I had a problem with anything, but just in the way that it was Troy who it was like she was taking a liking to him. I was like, oh, don't tell me this is not another romance. No, don't do this to me.
She's the first who goes to visit him when they've got him locked up in the cell after they've restrained him, and she's like, you're not angry, you're not a fighter, you're quite a peaceful person. What's going on here?
Yeah, so the first half of the episode, obviously the ship dodging stuff and all the little tricks are fun for the most part. I was a little concerned after that when it was sort of doing the exposition. However, I have to say that the back half of this episode did a lot to really elevate this one from what it was before, because so essentially breaks out. He's supposed to get beamed over, despite the fact that once Picard and the rest find out about this, what's happened to him, and like, oh, that's a bit shady. Obviously, this is not right what they've done to him. This is, he's kind of a victim more than anything else. He tries to sort of raise that with the Prime Minister, and the person, no, like, we'll take care of this internally, which, Picard kind of scoffs about and whatever. But he escapes. Before they beam him back over to their ship, he escapes, and he goes around the Enterprise. And I thought this section of the episode was actually a lot of fun, because it was him using the same tactics again. He kept trying to, like, and, in Data, because this had already happened earlier in the episode with the ships, he's like, no, his tactic is to distract us. It is to circumvent us, to make us think that he's doing one thing when he's actually doing the other. And it's like, he knows we can't detect him. His body does not have life signs. It was changed to do that. And yet he's leaving us a trail. So, we see him doing various things around the ship, leaving things in places, phasers in places. He's doing all these little things. And I think the most fun element of it is that ultimately when he is kind of caught, or even though ultimately he's got a plan to get out of it, it's because Worf actually uses his own tactic against him, and Worf pretends that he's going somewhere and says, oh, okay, you two go and search this area, I'm going to go and stand guard over in this, missile dock or whatever. And we find out that he's actually, he's underneath the crates or whatever listening, and he sneaks out, and then as soon as he gets out, Worf says, like, I've got you. You're very cunning. You must have Klingon blood in you. He's impressed. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that Worf, it was a good character bit for Worf, I think, because Worf's always meant to be this, combatant, the Klingon blood's he's meant to think like this. So having him kind of rise to the challenge and sort of like outwit him a little bit, even though he does have like another distraction in place. He's got the phaser that he's overcharged to, blow up elsewhere. But
no, it makes sense. It's showing that, again, Worf isn't just, it's not Klingon, brute strength. He's got military training. He's tactically smart as well.
Yeah, so I thought this, because I've kind of glossed over a lot of the build of it, because I think my favorite part of it though really is just it kept cutting back to the bridge, and it was Picard, Riker, Data basically figuring out, okay, well, he must be going here, so now we know where he's going. He's trying to hack into here, so he must be going there. There was a lot of kind of like
second guessing
and trying to predict where he was going, and that part was really fun because they set him up to be this formidable foe in this type of situation where he's stealthily sneaking around. So it felt like, well, a little expositionary in the first half. It felt like it was all paying off in this sequence where I really got kind of the fun of like him being this good and the crew trying to outwit him and just coming up a little bit short. But maybe Worf almost gets there, and you kind of root for Worf a little bit. And
it kind of reminds me of it's like some sort of like 80s action movie, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. It goes into 80s action, but I think they set up how good he is at this enough that it feels right in the scenes. It doesn't feel...
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that to cheapen it. It's just, it feels like they had that kind of spirit and style in mind. And we can get that into 15 minutes of an episode. Yeah, and they did.
Yeah, so I dug that. And then, I thought it was maybe going to slow down again after that. Once they have to go back down to the planet and talk to the Prime Minister, and they're debating about, you shouldn't have done this to them. Like, he's got some sort of plan. We don't know what he's doing. He's probably gearing up to do something. What's going on? Because that's because he does eventually escape. He powers the transporter in the cargo area with a phaser to then transport onto the ship that was going to take him, but he's got a phaser on them, so he's got them hostage essentially, and he gathers his fellow soldiers and shows up at the ending, in this room with all the the Prime Minister and all of his delegates, and Picard's there, and the standoff is quite interesting because Picard's like, no, don't raise your guns. If you provoke them in any way, they will go into kill mode, and they know that, but they can't help it, so just don't threaten them. Put your guns down, put your phasers down, and just talk it out. And I think I like that kind of twist on the premise, but I think what elevates this above anything else for me, because even up until this point, I was okay. That middle section on the ship was really fun. So this episode's a pretty solid episode just for being fun. But I think the ending actually kind of elevates it just a little bit more as well, because I kind of love that the solution to this is for Picard to just go, "No, we're good. We'll leave." Like, it's perfect. Because he's like, because Zefram Cochrane, the Prime Minister, he's like, it's actually Zefram Cochrane. I know that, but the actor played him too, right? Just work with your folks, right? He's like, no, Picard, you have to do something. Help us, help us with this dispute. The Grey Killers is like, no, you just have to make a choice. We've got all we need for a report. We're going to go. So it's up to you. As you said, this is an internal matter. So you have to develop your society on alone. And I love the line of dialogue. He says, and I've got a feeling in the next few minutes it's going to develop significantly. I like that a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of little bits at the end here that I really liked. There was one of the lines where Picard and I think it was Troy were there explaining that, hey, why don't you reverse what you did to them? And they're like, oh well, we can't. We knew we couldn't really anyway. And they're like, well, I mean, we think we could. You just need to give it a real good try. And they're like, well, I don't know, but what if we need them again? And I thought that was really telling, given that the whole thing at the start when they're here to be assessed to join the Federation, and it's like, no, we're super peaceful. It's all diplomacy for all us. We don't need fight, nothing. And then by the end, it's like, but what if there's a war?
Yeah, we need something in place. So there's a hypocrisy there, of course, which is right there in your face. But I think I went through the motions with this episode where I thought, oh, it seems okay. To this is actually really fun. To that is actually a really cool little dramatic point at the end. And I think the idea that we have a situation, because so often the Enterprise is called in to deal with a dispute between two factions or something, or there's a crisis on a planet, and obviously a lot of the time because they have asked for help, so the Enterprise goes in to help them. This isn't quite the Prime Directive, because this society has reached the level where they're in space level with everyone else. They're in the intergalactic community. They're talking about the Federation. They know of its existence. They're wanting to intermingle, but it kind of harkened back to the Prime Directive a little bit when Picard's like, no, this is for you guys to sort out. You have to decide what society you want. I can tell you right now that because of this, he doesn't say this out loud, but he basically implies, like, you're not Federation material because of this right here. Once you've sorted all this out, maybe in a few years, if you want to reapply, I'm sure we'll be back to have a look and see how things are going on. And I thought that was interesting. I love that this was solved by Picard, because this is the thing. If it was a situation where, some bad guys or the villainous side are definitely going to gun down a bunch of people, he wouldn't be able to leave. But this thing doesn't have to escalate, because he knows that as long as they don't actually try and fight, there'll be no actual conflict. He can leave and just let it play out.
The only way they lose and potentially die is if they threaten them in the first place.
Yes, they have to choose, and they know what they're doing by choosing to do that. So all they have to do is
on their own heads be it, right?
Yeah, it's their choice. Like they can save themselves. This is a simple case of Picard going, they can save themselves, and very reasonably as well, easily, might we add.
Oh yeah.
So, I kind of loved that. I loved the ending of this episode.
Yeah, I realize it. I feel like there's been a few episodes recently where it's had like a really interesting ending in the sense that it does something that's not just the standard. Here's the problem fixed. I appreciate that. I do think this episode, the first 20 minutes or so, is a bit. Yeah, okay. The first 5 minutes before the title sequence is good, but then you've got maybe 15 to 20 minutes, which is a bit average.
Yeah. It's when Data comes to speak to him, they bond a little bit because he's also programmed. There's that, and then obviously stuff with Troy, sort of try to convince the others. That stuff's like, obviously all the information we get is important because it's what makes the back half sing, but it is inherently less exciting or engaging.
It's not particularly enjoyable to watch. It's fine. It's not like outrageously bad or anything, or it's not. But it's you're just kind of watching it, waiting for something to happen, and it does happen. And when it does happen, it's good.
Yeah, because I think I was of the mind during that section. I was thinking, this could easily go downhill and be a crummy episode if it doesn't pick up at any point. But no, it does. Like it absolutely does. Action on Trek isn't typically its strong suit, and I felt like the action of that middle section was really strong.
I think it's because it wasn't like a lot of fight choreography, right? Because that's where it tends to really falter. It was
true.
It was actually a very like tactical game of cat and mouse, essentially, that it was playing for these fight sequences.
And what's one of the best episodes of the original series? It's a submarine episode.
Yeah.
All right. The enemy. It's not Below, because Below plays submarine, but it was something.
I know the submarine episode you're on about.
Yeah,
we praised that really highly.
Enemy something enemy. Damn it! Yeah. Oh well.
Do you know what? As well, near the start of this episode, it answered a question that I posed a couple episodes ago about phasers on stun settings, whether or not they stun instantly or not, and it seems that there was a delay.
There was a debate because of Riker. This was like just 2 episodes ago. Riker with the love interest when he had to kill her. Why did he just not stun her? And I did have one question this episode though, because when Riker and that, because Daynar's like running wild on all security down at the transporter. O'Brien's trying to jump in. He gets stunned in the shoulder with the phaser. And Riker comes in and grabs in, and Riker yells out, set phasers to full stun, and I'm like, wait, why didn't these other assholes immediately after the first, because they try to stun him a couple of times, right? And he just kind of takes it as if it's nothing to him. I'm like, why didn't you turn it up there? If there's 3 seconds of stun, go right up to 3, you bastards.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like a call they're not authorized to make.
Maybe,
unless told by a superior officer, they have to stay on the minimum setting.
Yeah, maybe that's the obvious explanation. But when Riker yelled at, I'm like, why didn't you just do that before? That just clearly needs it.
That was actually such a weird moment as well for me. I'm going to nitpick at this here.
Go on.
In that, Riker's got him pinned down by the arms. Wolf's on top of him. He's like, right, phasers on maximum stun. And then they don't actually do it. We just sit there for another 20 seconds of them talking, and then we cut to he's in the cell. I'm like, at least stun him.
Yeah, nah. So I mean, it's not a perfect episode, like we say. Obviously, there's a clear sort of weaker chunk of it, but the weaker chunk is the setup, and is relatively a small section once you take in account the whole episode. Once you have everything in play, it's actually not that long a section, but
yeah, it's about 15 minutes or so, I think, out of the
45. 40. Yeah, so honestly, really fun time. I think the ending, the idea of Picard just leaving them be and saying, no, you have to do this yourselves, we're just going, and having having the Prime Minister sort of stare in disbelief and go, oh, you're just going to leave us? you can't fix this for us? Like, no, you have to do it yourself. And of course, I mean, the only downside to the whole thing is that Daynar kind of has this little stare at Troy as they're leaving, and Troy kind of smiles at him, and I'm like, okay, I get it, all right.
Yeah, that was a bit cheesy.
Yeah, okay. I get it. You know what, Troy? Don't fall for it, right? Riker's clearly your angel. This guy might have been your Riley. He's got the super soldier thing and going for him. but Riley was he was a dead
Somehow
end.
less interesting than this guy. Fight me.
I don't know if Riley, from a fun point of view, ever had the section on from this episode where he's running around the ship. I don't know if Riley ever had a fun scene like that. I will say, in terms of character, this character isn't really the interesting thing about him, though. It's more kind of the diplomatic or the moral questions around him. Here's the thing:
if you tell me, okay, each of these characters is going to be in the next episode of a show as those characters, right? I'm going to pick this one. I feel I've got more chance of getting something entertaining out of my episode.
I mean, Riley, not a great character, right? He was in a lot of good episodes of Buffy. Let's not mix this up.
He was in good episodes, but he was never doing anything good in those episodes.
Yeah, but this isn't fair. Like, if this guy had been in the last couple of seasons of Trek, I would argue Riley had been in more good episodes of Buffy than this guy would have been in good episodes of Trek. He happens to only be in one episode.
No, but this isn't about episodes being good or not. It's about the impact the character has on said episodes. This character makes this episode good, whereas Riley is in those episodes. Those episodes are good in spite of him.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'm not really sticking up for Riley here. I'm more just really nitpicking at your argument because you're doing this just to try and annoy me. So I'd rather it be thought out than just a snap thing to throw out there.
You pushed. I feel like I defended pretty solidly there.
That's fine. I mean, he's like one of maybe 2 or 3 Buffy characters over 7 seasons you could even argue are less interesting than this guy. But I'll give you Riley.
I could probably think of more characters if I could remember any of their names, but they're really uninteresting. So I'll get back to you.
Hey, the cheese man from Restless is not going to he's better than this dude. He wears the cheese. The cheese does not wear him. It was a solid episode, though. I think we've had a couple of solid ones in a row here for different reasons.
Yeah, I don't think this was as good as last time. So
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, but still really solid though. I think this season, even though it's had a couple of stinkers, although notably they've been tied to romance plots, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think a lot of the general episodes have definitely upped their game, where they'll maybe start off with a premise that doesn't seem that interesting on its own, but then by the time it gets to the end of the episode, oh, they did something interesting. It did something. I put a twist on it. It gave us a unique conclusion to it, kind of like we were saying earlier. So I think a lot of the season 3 episodes have felt that way, and I think you can see kind of the improvement there. So yeah, there you go. That is The Hunted. So let's look at next episode of Next Gen, episode 12. It is called The High Ground. No Star Wars jokes. I am out right now. I am banning all potential Star Wars jokes right now.
I cannot make any firm promises. I will tell you now. It entirely depends on the amount of alcohol I have ingested before we do that episode, and also the quality of the episode. If it's a good episode, if it's a properly good episode, there'll be less of those jokes.
Here's the description. While visiting a planet under civil war, Dr. Crusher is taken hostage by an opposing faction of the planet's ruling government. This sounds like a pretty standard style.
Yeah, I have to see what they do with it.
Episode, yeah, I have to see. What's this uniform I'm seeing in this image, though?
I don't know.
Interesting. It must be that planet's military uniform, but it stuck out to me because it was like, oh, that's the sort of uniform you'd get on a different sci-fi show. So I don't know.
Interesting.
It just stuck out to me at a glance. Anyway, so yeah, you go. That has been episode 11 of Next Gen Season 3. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters for mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble, including an exclusive Already Cancelled, which we just started on 6 Feet Under. The show itself was voted for by our patrons, but just for the $1 tier and up, you get a bonus Already Cancelled, as Connor tries to not die from hiccups. But you can go and have a look at that. And then the higher tiers get you other things, so go and have a look, see if you're interested. But that is us, so thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys, and remember that when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.